She walked away with a baby. She came back with an empire. Part 3. Chapter 17, Unmasked. The truth always comes wearing scars. Smoke still curled from the ruins of Glass Manor 2 days after the fire. Fire investigators had confirmed what Evelyn already knew in her bones: arson. And not just any arson, targeted. Premeditated. Lily had narrowly survived. Daniel had nearly died. And the walls Evelyn had spent 5 years fortifying had collapsed, literally and figuratively. Now, nothing was left to hide behind. The truth was clawing at the surface, and she was ready to bleed. It was evening when she called Daniel to the hospital rooftop. Lily was asleep in the pediatric ward. Daniel hadn't left her side since the fire. Evelyn stood alone, wrapped in a long black coat, arms crossed against the wind. Daniel stepped out slowly. His face was tired. His eyes were distant. He didn't speak. Neither did she. Until she turned, looked him straight in the eyes, and said, "Her full name is Lily Rose Whitmore. She's yours. From the moment I left. From the moment Chloe married you. From the moment you looked me in the face and didn't know I was carrying your child." The words hit like thunder. Daniel blinked slowly, as if trying to catch his breath. I don't, he started, then stopped. "I always wondered. I just never believed it. I was going to tell you," she said. But the lies were already laid out like a trap. "Chloe made sure of it. You were standing at the altar when I found out. Do you remember that day?" He closed his eyes. "Every second." She took a deep breath. "I was humiliated. Pregnant. Alone. And all I could think was, don't let them see you break. So I disappeared." Daniel took a step forward. "You could have told me." "I would have." "No," she snapped. "You wouldn't have. You were already poisoned by her. She forged texts. Burned bridges. She told you I cheated." Daniel stared at her. "And broke." He sat on a bench, burying his face in his hands. "I should have known," he whispered. "God, Emma. I should have fought for you. I let her twist everything." "You trusted the wrong sister," she said softly. "I married her," he choked out. "I gave my life to a woman who destroyed yours." She sat beside him. Their shoulders almost touched. The silence between them wasn't cold this time. It was grieving. "I became evil in black," she said. "To survive. To rise. To forget. But every night I tucked Lily in, I saw your eyes. And I remembered." Daniel looked at her. "She called me daddy. In the fire. She didn't hesitate. She always knew," Evelyn said. "I never told her. But she knew." The next morning, Chloe returned to Oakridge. But not for long. Police met her at a private airstrip just outside town. She wore sunglasses, a silk scarf, and the arrogance of someone who believed she could still control the story. They had a warrant. They had her fingerprints from the cellar door. They had footage from a neighbor's camera, her car near the estate the night of the fire. And they had motive. She didn't speak during the arrest. Just smiled. As if it was all still part of her script. News broke fast. Local socialite charged in arson attack on tech heiress's estate. Insiders confirm a years-long family feud tied to secrets, betrayal, and a hidden child. Oakridge buzzed. Whispers filled cafes. Headlines spun. Chloe Reynolds Whitmore, once the darling of Oakridge, was now the villain of every feed. But for Evelyn, the court of public opinion didn't matter. The only verdict that mattered was the one from Lily. That night, as Evelyn kissed her daughter goodnight in a borrowed apartment, Lily asked softly, "Is Daddy staying?" Evelyn froze. Then smiled. "I think he wants to." Daniel returned to the rooftop. Evelyn was already there. "You told the truth," he said. "I had nothing left to lose," she replied. He nodded. "Me either." They stood in silence. The kind that knew grief. The kind that finally let air in. And then, he asked, "What now?" Evelyn looked at him. And said, with tears in her eyes and steel in her spine, "Now, we begin again. With her. And no more lies." Chapter 18, Aftershock. The earthquake had passed. But the cracks still spread beneath their feet. 3 weeks had passed since the fire. Since the truth exploded like a bomb. Since Lily whispered Daddy through the smoke. But now, in the stillness that followed the chaos, Emma, no longer Evelyn, did something she hadn't allowed herself to do in years. She paused. She breathed. And then, she pulled away. She and Lily had moved into a modest rented cottage on the edge of town. Cozy. Quiet. Far from the towers of power and the ghosts of mansions. The Blackwell staff was dismissed. Her assistant managed the empire from afar. The once invincible queen had stepped down from her throne. And now, Emma was just a mother. A mother staring out the window, watching her daughter pick dandelions in the garden, and wondering what came next. Because Daniel was texting. Calling. Leaving messages. And she wasn't answering. Not yet. Daniel didn't show up with flowers. He didn't beg. He didn't accuse. He showed up one morning with a hammer, a tool belt, and a coffee in a plain paper cup. Emma opened the door in a sweatshirt, eyebrows raised. "What is this?" "You said the porch creaks," he replied. "I came to fix it." "I don't need you to, you don't." "But Lily might." Emma crossed her arms. "You think fixing floorboards is going to make up for 5 years of silence?" Daniel met her eyes. "No. I think showing up, every day, might start to." She said nothing. Then stepped aside. 1 inch. Just enough. He walked in. He came every morning for a week. Sometimes with tools. Sometimes with lunch. Sometimes with nothing but a story for Lily, who greeted him with growing excitement but guarded glances toward her mother. Emma watched it all from a distance. Eyes sharp. Arms folded. Heart on lockdown. Lily, unaware of the minefield beneath her feet, handed him drawings, asked about dinosaurs, asked, quietly, why he didn't live with them. Daniel answered carefully. "Because Mummy and I are still figuring things out." He didn't rush. He didn't push. He simply stayed. One afternoon, Emma finally agreed to coffee. Neutral ground. A small cafe on Main Street, where they once used to sit for hours as college students, planning futures that no longer existed. Daniel stirred his tea. She drank hers black. "I'm not the man I was when I married Chloe," he said. "I'm not the woman who stood by crying as you did," she replied. He looked at her. Wounded. Humbled. "Then maybe we start from scratch." Emma's lips tightened. "Scratch isn't enough, Daniel. You weren't just weak. You didn't just doubt me. You left me to drown." And while you were on a honeymoon, I was giving birth in a city where no one knew my name. I know, he said. And I hate myself for it. I don't need your guilt, she said, her voice low but steady. I need proof. He nodded. Then I'll prove it. Daniel started work the next day, not as a partner, but as an employee. He took a junior role at one of Blackwell's local portfolio companies. No fanfare. No title. No elevator perks. He earned minimum wage, wore a name tag, swept floors, sorted invoices. He took the bus. Word got out. Oak Ridge buzzed. The once golden boy of Whitmore Holdings now filing supply reports in khakis. And Emma. She watched. From afar. Because she'd built her empire from the ground up. And now, if Daniel wanted to stand beside her, not above her, he'd have to do the same. That evening, Lily handed her mother a drawing. 3 stick figures. A little house. A dog. A sun. She pointed. This is me, she said. And this is you. Emma smiled. Who's this one? Lily grinned. Daddy. Emma stared at the paper. And for the first time, didn't correct her. Chapter 19, Father and Daughter. The deepest healing doesn't happen in silence, it happens when a child calls a broken man daddy and means it. At first, their moments were small. Daniel would arrive with picture books and clumsy jokes. Lily would giggle, then go quiet. He would sit on the porch, patiently tying her shoelaces while she chattered about the bugs in the garden. She would ask a question, do dinosaurs still have birthdays? And he would answer like it mattered more than anything else in the world. But every step felt like walking on glass. Because Lily still didn't quite know him. Not yet. Not fully. And Emma. She watched from the kitchen window, arms folded, every muscle in her body tight. She wanted to smile. She wanted to believe. But her heart, her traitorous, scarred heart, refused to trust the man who had once watched her drown and called it rain. One evening, Daniel brought a kite. A bright purple one shaped like a dragon. Lily had never flown one before. They went to the old park on the hill. Emma came along, silent, guarded. She sat on the bench with a book she didn't read, her eyes fixed on the sky. Daniel ran through the grass, Lily at his side, their laughter carried by the wind. The kite soared. So did Lily. At one point, she tripped and fell into his arms. She looked up at him and said, "Daddy, I did it." Daniel froze. He smiled so wide it nearly broke him. And Emma looked away. Back at the cottage, Lily insisted Daniel read her bedtime story. "Only if Mummy stays too," she said, her eyes darting nervously between them. So Emma sat at the edge of the bed, one arm wrapped around a pillow, her gaze shadowed. Daniel opened the book, The Little Fox Who Lost His Way. Halfway through, Lily curled up against his shoulder and asked, "Were you ever lost, Daddy?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Yes," he said. "Did you find your way back?" He looked at Emma. And whispered, "I think I'm trying to." Later, after Lily had drifted to sleep, Daniel stepped onto the porch. Emma followed a few minutes later, leaning in the doorway with her arms crossed. "She's opening up to you," Emma said quietly. "I know. You're making her fall in love with you." He nodded. "That's the idea." "And what happens if you leave again?" Her voice trembled, low and fierce. "What happens when the magic wears off, Daniel? When someone else whispers lies in your ear, and you believe them again. He stepped closer. I don't want to leave, he said. I want to earn. Not your forgiveness. Not your love. Just the chance to be part of her life. Emma stared at him. And hated that a part of her believed him. Hated that her pulse quickened when he said it. Hated how his eyes still saw through her armor. She turned away. Keep your voice down, she said. She's sleeping. But her voice was softer now. The next morning, Emma found Lily's sketchbook on the table. Inside was a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures again. This time, they were holding hands. Emma in the middle. Lily on the left. And Daniel on the right. A red heart floated above them. Beneath it, in shaky little handwriting. My family. Emma closed the book slowly. Her fingers lingered on the page. And for the first time since she returned, she allowed herself to hope. That night, after Lily had gone to sleep, Daniel lingered by the door. Emma opened it for him but said nothing. He hesitated, then said, You don't have to love me again. She didn't answer. I just want you to know. I'm not walking away this time. She looked at him. At the man who'd burned her, left her, buried her, and now stood there trying to rebuild her trust one bedtime story at a time. Then she said, Don't promise me anything you can't keep. He nodded. I'm not promising. I'm proving. And then he left. But the silence he left behind. It wasn't cold anymore. Chapter 20, Ghosts of Graves. Every empire has a shadow. And sometimes, that shadow comes back to collect. It began on a crisp morning. The kind that hinted at spring, with air just warm enough to believe in renewal. Emma opened the door expecting a delivery. Instead, she found a ghost. Simon Graves. Grayer than she remembered, but no less imposing. His tailored black coat hung from his frame like a judge's robe. His eyes, still wolf-sharp, swept over her modest cottage with a smirk. Funny, he said. I remember your taste being colder. Emma didn't flinch. Why are you here? Simon stepped inside, uninvited, as if he'd never stopped owning her space. We need to talk, he said, glancing toward the hallway. Your daughter home? Emma stepped in front of him. You don't say her name. He raised a brow. Well, he said smoothly, I guess I found your new weak spot. They sat at the kitchen table. Emma, coiled like a wire. Simon, calm and theatrical, like a man who already knew how the play would end. He took out a flash drive and slid it across the table. I've compiled quite the scrapbook, he said. Offshore wire transfers. Unlicensed crypto investments. A few shell companies that, shall we say, operated in the grey. Emma didn't look down. I was alone. Desperate. I did what I had to. Simon smiled. Yes. And what you had to do made you rich. Made you powerful. Made you black. He leaned forward, his voice velvet and venom. But now you're back to being Reynolds. And Reynolds has a daughter. A reputation. A man sniffing around with second chances. And I wonder, what would all of that cost you if the past came knocking on the sex door? Emma's fingers curled into fists. What do you want? Simon chuckled. There it is. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at Lily playing in the garden with Daniel. Your life is neat now. Soft. Almost boring. But I remember who you were in Madrid, Emma. The woman who learned how to move blood money without leaving a fingerprint. The girl who asked me to teach her how to be dangerous. Emma rose from her chair. You taught me how to survive. And now, he said, turning back to her, I want you to help me do the same. He pulled out a second folder. A new venture. Vague details. High risk. High return. Technically legal, but dirty as hell. I need your name. Your influence. Your silence. She stared at the folder. If I say no? He shrugged. I leak the drive to the press. To the SEC. To Daniel. To anyone interested in knocking the crown off your head. And don't think I won't. A long silence passed between them. Then Emma whispered, I'll consider it. Simon smiled. Tick-tock, my dear. And he walked out. That night, Emma sat on her porch as the stars blinked above. Lily was asleep. Daniel had just left. He'd kissed her on the cheek. For the first time in years, Emma had felt safe. Now, the ground was shifting again. She opened the flash drive on her laptop. Line after line of coded transactions stared back at her. Each one a choice. Each one a step toward becoming evil in black. She'd thought she had outrun this. But Simon hadn't just come for money. He'd come for control. She found Daniel the next morning at the cafe where they'd started over. I need to tell you something, she said, sitting across from him. He could see it instantly, the storm behind her eyes. Before I became evil in black, she said, I wasn't just lucky. I wasn't just clever. I made deals. With dangerous men. I broke laws. I used people. I laundered money through broken systems and rebranded it as clean. He didn't interrupt. I built a kingdom on dirt, she finished. And now the man who helped me build it has come back, and he wants me to help him again. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, you told me the truth. I did. Then we'll fight him together. Emma stared at him. You don't even know what you're promising. He took her hand. Yes, I do. Simon Graves stood at the window of a penthouse hotel in Oak Ridge, sipping scotch. He smiled as he read the message on his phone. She won't play. He typed back. Then we'll burn her again. Outside, thunder rolled. The Queen had survived the fire. But now the architect of her empire was coming to bury her with its blueprints. Chapter 21, Sacrifices and Saviors. Sometimes the greatest act of love is stepping into the fire so the people you love never have to feel the heat. Emma didn't sleep. Not that week. Not truly. She stayed up late every night, pacing the kitchen, the hallways, rereading Graves' offer, the flash drive, the shell company trails. Every line was a countdown. Every encrypted transfer a ghost of her past whispering, you don't deserve this life. She'd built Blackwell Holdings from ashes, but those ashes were laced with fire, and now it threatened everything she had rebuilt. Simon had gone silent, but not idle. She knew the silence was part of the pressure. A tactic. A countdown. The next call might be from a journalist. Or a federal agent. Or Lily's school. And if her daughter, was ever dragged into this, Emma would burn the world down before she let that happen. It came 2 mornings later. A simple email. No name. No subject line. Just a link. She clicked it. It led to a private upload folder. Inside, scanned copies of her forged fund transfers, a voice clip of a conversation she'd had with a financier in Panama, and, most damning of all, a file marked Emma Reynolds, the real Blackwell. Her heart stopped. It wasn't just about destroying her career. It was a scandal package. Formatted. Branded. Ready for distribution to press and prosecutors. And someone had already accessed the folder. She slammed the laptop shut, breath-catching. It was time to choose. Daniel found her at the lake the next night. She was standing barefoot at the edge of the water. The same lake where, once upon a time, she'd cried alone while carrying a child no one knew existed. He said nothing. He knew the weight on her back. She finally spoke. He's going to leak everything. Daniel nodded slowly. You can't stop him. I could, she whispered. If I signed on. If I helped him with this next venture. But I'd be a criminal again. And this time, it wouldn't be hidden in foreign banks or technical loopholes. This time, Lily would know. The world would know. Daniel took a long breath. And said the words he'd come to say. Let me take the fall. Emma turned sharply. What? I'll say I did it, he said, stepping closer. The offshores. The transfers. I'll claim I created the accounts through your company. That I misused your trust. I'll be the story. They'll believe it. You'll walk away. Lily will walk away. Emma stared at him, stricken. You'd go to prison. I might, he said. Or I might cut a deal. But either way, this ends with you free. She shook her head violently. You don't owe me this. No, he said. I owe her this. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. For 5 years, she didn't know her father. For 5 years, I believed the wrong person, married the wrong woman, became the wrong man. If I can fix one thing in this mess, let it be this. Emma's lip trembled. You'd give up your life to protect mine. Daniel stepped forward. I'd give up everything for her. They worked through the night. She gave him the files she wanted erased from history. He memorized the names, the shell companies, the timelines. She wrote out a public statement, one she'd never release. He wrote one she could. At dawn, he kissed Lily on the forehead while she slept and whispered, "Be brave, Fox." Then he turned to Emma. Promise me you'll tell her I did one good thing. Emma looked at him through glassy eyes. You've done too. She touched his hand. And he walked away. But when Daniel arrived at Simon's penthouse to hand over the confession, he found the door already open. Inside, chaos. The FBI. Agents everywhere. Files bagged. Laptops taken. Simon Graves, in handcuffs, face red with fury, was being led out. Daniel froze. Mr. Whitmore, one of the agents asked. Yes. Looks like someone beat you to it. Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from Emma. There was one move left. I used it. We're free. Back at the cottage, Daniel stood at the threshold. Emma opened the door, silhouetted in the morning light. I told the FBI everything, she said. The truth. But only about him. They've been watching Graves for years. They needed someone to open the gate. He smiled weakly. So you didn't need me to fall for you this time. Emma stepped into his arms. No, she whispered. This time, you stood beside me. And from the window, Lily watched them, small, smiling, safe. Chapter 22, Trial by Fire. In a world that loves a scandal, redemption must scream louder than guilt. Oak Ridge never slept easy after the fire. But once word got out that Emma Reynolds, formerly Evil in Black, had ties to a federal investigation involving offshore laundering and business fraud, the town ignited like dry brush. The whispers turned to headlines. Queen of Blackwell, hero or con artist. Hidden fortune, hidden child, the Emma Reynolds scandal. From heiress to defendant, the fall of a phoenix. Reporters flooded the courthouse steps. Protesters waved signs reading "Fraud, protect the child" and "Liar" in lipstick. The courtroom was standing room only. A media circus. And Emma was the ringmaster, willing or not. The prosecutor painted a brutal portrait. Charts, wire trails, shady foreign firms, everything Simon Graves had attempted, Emma had once touched. Even if she'd helped the FBI bring him down, they argued, she'd still build part of her empire with dirt under her nails. The gallery buzzed. The jury looked grim. But what stung most was when the prosecutor pointed at Daniel. He knew. He protected her. He even offered to take the fall. Gasps filled the courtroom. Daniel's fists clenched under the table. He wanted to stand. He wanted to shout. But Emma shook her head softly. She'd take this. Not him. The town followed suit. Shops that once adored Emma now removed her photos. Women who once toasted her success now whispered that maybe Chloe was the real victim. Daniel was met with glares at the gas station. Lily came home from school crying. They said Mummy's going to jail, she sobbed. They said you're bad people. Emma held her tight, fighting back her own tears. No matter what they say, she whispered, we know the truth. But the truth was unraveling fast, and the rope they were clinging to felt thin. The turning point came on the third day of trial. Unexpected. Undeniable. Emma's lawyer called one final witness. Lily. The courtroom shifted in confusion and discomfort. The judge hesitated. She's only 6. She's the one most affected, the lawyer replied. Let her speak. Emma tried to object, but Lily was already at the stand. Wearing a blue dress. Holding her stuffed fox. Her voice wavered, but it was clear. They said my mummy is bad, she began. But my mummy made me pancakes. She taught me how to spell courage. She always says, tell the truth, even when it hurts. She looked toward the jury. She told me what she did. She said she made mistakes to keep me safe. To buy me crayons. And books. And hugs. And love. She turned to the judge. She saved people. She gave money to hospitals and schools. She never let me feel alone. Not even once. The courtroom was silent. Then Lily whispered, don't take her away. The jury didn't rule on guilt that day, they were deliberating business infractions, not motherhood. But the town. The press. The people. Something shifted. The headlines changed. The girl who spoke for her mother. Blackwell legacy, scandal or sacrifice. By the end of the week, the verdict came in. Guilty on 2 financial counts. Probation. Fines. No prison time. Daniel was cleared of all charges. And Emma. Emma was free, but no longer untouchable. The world knew who she had been. But more importantly, so did she. Outside the courthouse, the press waited. Emma stepped down the marble stairs into the sunlight, holding Lily's hand. The cameras flashed. But she didn't hide. Daniel met her at the curb. He opened his arms. And for the first time, she ran into them without hesitation. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" he asked. "For letting her speak. For standing by me. For not saving me, until I was ready to be saved." He kissed her hair. "Trial's over," he said. "Let's start the life we want." Chapter 23, Chloe's Last Strike. Some ghosts don't rest until they take everything. Even the light. See? It happened on a Tuesday. Emma had just dropped Lily off at her after-school art class at the Oak Ridge Community Center. The sun was warm, the breeze light. For the first time in weeks, life felt possible. She was gone no more than 15 minutes. A stop at the grocery store. A call to Daniel. When she returned, the classroom was empty. The teacher was confused. She said someone came for her. An aunt. Emma's blood went cold. Lily didn't have an aunt. Not anymore. An hour later, the security footage surfaced. A blonde woman in a hat and sunglasses, waving Lily toward the back door. Lily skipped after her, trusting. Innocent. A white van. No plates. Gone in seconds. When Daniel saw the footage, he slammed his fist into the wall hard enough to bruise. She's back. Chloe Reynolds, arrested, charged, awaiting trial, had escaped custody during a prison transport only hours earlier. No one had warned them. Now she had Lily. And Emma's carefully reconstructed world began to crack. Again. The call came at midnight. Emma answered on the second ring. "Hello, Sister," Chloe purred. Her voice was soaked in malice, venom dripping through the receiver. "If you want your little angel back, you'll meet me. Alone." Emma's hand trembled. "Where is she?" "Safe. For now." Daniel took the phone. "If you touch her." "Oh, please," Chloe spat. "Don't grow a spine now, Daniel. You didn't have one when I married you, and you sure didn't have one when I lied to your face. You want money?" Emma demanded. "What do you want, Chloe?" Chloe's voice dropped to a whisper. "I want you to pay." Then she hung up. Chloe's text came 10 minutes later. The old Whitmore Lake house. Midnight. No cops. No tricks. Just you, Emma. Emma closed her eyes. The lake house. Where Chloe and Daniel once summered. Where Emma once stood, pregnant, forgotten, and devastated. Of course Chloe would choose there. Daniel looked at her. "We're going together." "No," Emma said. She said, "Just me." Daniel stepped forward. "I lost you once. I almost lost Lily. I'm not making that mistake again." The lake house was falling apart. Weeds choked the dock. The shutters hung loose. The windows gaped like open wounds. Emma stepped inside first. The floorboards groaned under her heels. Lily's voice called faintly from upstairs. "Mummy." Emma's heart cracked. "Lily," she cried, running toward the sound. But Chloe stepped out from the shadows, blocking the stairs. Gun in hand. "Ah ah ah. Not yet." She looked, unhinged. Hair tangled. Makeup smeared. Eyes shining with something between grief and madness. "You stole my life," she said coldly. "You took him. You took everything. You burned it all down, Emma said. I left you behind. And you still couldn't let me live. You left me alone with a man who never loved me. Chloe screamed. With a baby who wasn't mine. You walked away, and they all forgot I even existed. Tears streamed down her face. Her grip on the gun tightened. Then, Daniel entered. Chloe, he said softly. Let her go. Chloe's eyes widened. You came. I came for my daughter. She's not your daughter. Chloe shrieked. She was supposed to be mine. You just replaced me. Like I was nothing. Emma moved slowly. You were my sister, she said. And you threw me away for a wedding dress. A long silence. Then Lily's voice again, trembling, Mummy. I'm scared. Emma stepped toward the stairs. Chloe raised the gun. Daniel lunged. The shot rang out. Everything slowed. Emma screamed. Daniel tackled Chloe to the ground. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. Emma grabbed the gun and kicked it away as Chloe shrieked, fighting beneath Daniel's weight until police sirens howled in the distance. Someone had called them. Emma didn't know who. She just held Daniel as he bled, whispering, Don't you dare die on me. He looked up at her. And smiled. Not this time. Chloe was taken away in cuffs, screaming, sobbing, laughing through the blood on her face. Lily ran into Emma's arms the moment police brought her down the stairs. Mummy, she cried. Emma held her tighter than she ever had before. Then Lily reached for Daniel, who, bandaged, pale, still managed to kneel and open his arms. She sobbed against his chest. My hero, she whispered. And Daniel, with tears falling, kissed her head. Always. Chapter 24, Love, Raw and Real. When the lies are gone, and the fire has passed, all that's left is what we choose to hold, or let go. The house on the lake had gone quiet. The sirens faded. Chloe's screams were now a memory. Lily slept between two heart monitors at Oak Ridge General, clutching her stuffed fox, unaware of how close she'd come to vanishing into darkness. Daniel lay in the room next door, shoulder bandaged, the painkillers dulling everything but the ache in his chest, the ache of almost losing her. Emma sat between their rooms all night. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just sat. Still. Guarded. As she had for 5 years. Until morning came. And with it, a question. What now? Later that day, Daniel found her outside Lily's window, arms crossed, eyes distant. She's asking for you, he said gently. I know. He waited. She'll be okay, Emma whispered. She's stronger than both of us. Daniel looked at her, really looked. Without pretense. Without guilt. Without the weight of who they'd been. Just now. She's not the only one who's strong, he said. Emma turned to him. No. I'm just tired. The silence that followed was thick, until she finally asked. Why didn't you give up? Daniel stepped closer. Because somewhere under all the fire and lies, I still saw you. The girl who wrote poetry in the margins. Who snuck me sandwiches during finals. Who believed in me when I didn't. Emma's jaw tightened. She died. He shook his head. No. She became this. And this is still her. They walked through the hospital garden that evening. Slowly. Quietly. No press. No secrets. Just Emma and Daniel. No masks. I hated you, she said. For a long time. I hated me too, he replied. I wanted to ruin you. I wanted you to suffer. I did. She stopped walking. I don't know if I love you anymore, she said honestly. I don't expect you to, he replied. I just want a chance to try. Without the past in our way. Emma stared at him. Then down at her hands. They only know us as Evelyn and Daniel. The powerful. The scandalous. The dramatic. He smiled. I want to know Emma and Daniel. That's a lot quieter. Good, he said. We've had enough explosions. A few nights later, he invited her for dinner. Not at a restaurant. Not at some fancy rooftop. Just their little cottage's porch, under string lights and a soft breeze. Lily sat between them, dipping strawberries into chocolate and giggling. Emma hadn't smiled this freely in years. Later, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel stepped inside and returned with a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught. Don't, she said, voice trembling. Not unless you're sure. Not unless it's real. He opened the box slowly. Inside wasn't a diamond. It was a simple gold band. No sparkle. No flash. Just real. I don't want to marry Evelyn Black, he said. Emma looked up. I want to marry Emma Reynolds. Even if she says no. A long pause. Emma stepped closer. Her eyes glassed over. Her voice cracked. I can't promise perfection. Good, he said. I'm not offering it. I can't erase the pain. I don't want you to. I'm still learning how to trust. I'll wait. Another beat. Then she whispered, ask me again. Daniel knelt. Emma Reynolds, will you rebuild something new with me? Something honest. Something Lily can grow up inside of, without secrets. Emma stared at him. And then, she smiled. Through tears. Through scars. Through every broken piece finally healed. Yes, she whispered. But only if we do it our way. He stood and kissed her. Not like a man claiming something. But like a man who knew it was never his to take, only to cherish. Later that night, as Lily lay asleep with the ring in her tiny hands, just for tonight she'd insisted, Emma lay in bed next to Daniel. No fear. No past. Just the warmth of something rebuilt. I'm still scared, she murmured. Daniel kissed her shoulder. Then we'll be scared together. And outside the window, the wind whispered through the trees. But inside their home, for the first time in a long time, there was only peace. Chapter 25, The New Empire. She built it alone. She ruled it with fire. But now, she leads with love. The sun broke over Oak Ridge softly. Not with fanfare or headlines. Not with scandal or shadow. Just light, golden and clean. Inside the small cottage that had once been a temporary retreat, Emma Reynolds stood in the kitchen wearing silk pajamas, barefoot, brewing coffee. Not Evelyn Black. Not a runaway. Just Emma. In the living room, Daniel sat cross-legged on the floor helping Lily tie a bow in her hair. She was talking non-stop, about horses, and pancakes, and school, and whether or not foxes could be trained as pets. Daniel nodded along, focused, patient. Not as a businessman. Not as a failed husband. But as a father. A good one. That afternoon, Emma opened the safe where she kept all her old documents, Blackwell credentials, offshore banking passwords, Chloe's final confession, and one last untouched thing. Simon Graves's file. She sat at her desk. Read the contents one final time. Then lit a match. The pages curled and blackened in the ceramic bowl beside her. She didn't smile. But she didn't cry either. Just one word escaped her lips as the smoke rose: done. Later that week, the board of Blackwell Holdings convened for the first time since the trial. Daniel stood outside the conference room, hands in his pockets, watching through the glass as Emma took her seat at the head of the table. One of the board members approached him. "You're not coming in." Daniel shook his head. "This isn't my kingdom." And he meant it. Inside, Emma presented her new vision, one focused on transparency, equity, and restructuring. No offshore trusts. No secrets. She was firm. Brilliant. Commanding. But when the meeting ended and she stepped out into the hallway, Daniel was there. Waiting. Proud. And she didn't walk past him. She took his hand. They didn't have a wedding. Not a real one. Just a quiet afternoon at the courthouse. Lily held the rings. Emma wore no veil. Daniel wore a blue button-down and nervous eyes. There were no guests. No photographers. No trending hashtags. Just the three of them. Afterward, they drove to a field near the old manor ruins. Lily ran in circles chasing butterflies while Emma and Daniel sat on a picnic blanket. "Do you miss it?" he asked. "The spotlight?" She shook her head. "I am the spotlight," she said with a smirk. "But now I choose when to turn it on." That night, after Lily was tucked in, Emma stood at the window watching the stars. Daniel wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. "You're quiet," he murmured. "I was just thinking," she said. "I used to believe power meant never needing anyone. That to survive, I had to stay 10 steps ahead. That trusting someone was a weakness." He kissed the back of her neck. "And now?" "Now," she said slowly, "I know power means choosing to let someone in, even when you're strong enough to stand alone." He turned her around. "Do you forgive me?" She touched his face, gentle and firm. "I forgive you." A pause. "But I won't forget. I wouldn't ask you to." And in that moment, no ghosts remained. Only them. Months passed. Lily laughed more. Drew pictures of 3 people instead of 2. The word daddy became second nature. Daniel started teaching at a local business school. Emma opened a new foundation, the Phoenix Initiative, helping women who had lost everything rise again. And though her company grew, her headlines softened. No longer the Ice Queen. No longer the mystery. Now, she was something more dangerous. Beloved. At a press event for the foundation's launch, a reporter asked her, "Do you think your empire is finally complete?" Emma looked at the cameras. Then at Daniel. Then at Lily, spinning in a circle nearby with flowers in her hair. She smiled. "My empire was never meant to be ruled alone," she said. Then she walked away, hand in hand with her daughter, her love, and the life she chose. Not with vengeance, but with peace. Because every broken heart deserves a comeback. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional romance every week. Hit like, drop a comment, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of betrayal, redemption, and powerful love. And don't keep the drama to yourself. Share this story with someone who lives for twists just like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, Sometimes the best revenge is becoming unforgettable.